Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the situation report for the day of 854 to 855 for the 26th to the 27th of June. I have pondered to not do SITREP and just break up the SITREP into multiple frontline videos and post it across the entire 24 hours. But it's just way too tiring. No, to schedule a lot of videos, even though if they are short videos, not to mention the recording and management of it, is just takes too much energy and time. Yeah, you cannot imagine how much time it takes. So, yeah, I scrapped that idea. So, whatever it is, the situation reports continue. There is one frontline changes as opposed to what the frontline changes reported yesterday. There's just one, and it was an immediate invalidation of Russian claims. Very, very interesting. So, based on the latest geolocation, Ukrainian forces are geolocated here. Yesterday, we reported that the Russians are reaching Petropavlivka in this advance down. Immediately, this is now invalidated. So, in fact, the Ukrainians are still around here based on this geolocation. So this geolocation is wrong. This claim is now invalidated. So that's the only frontline changes to report over the past 24 hours. All the frontline changes is reported already yesterday. You can check out the video. I'll put the link at the end of this video. And I also published multiple short videos on the situation on every single front. Generally, not much changes, so I would just go through. But I'll still go through all of them as per usual. Just that for those that have watched some of this, you may find the information very similar. So over at the Kharkiv front. At the Kharkiv front, Russian forces and Ukrainian forces continued their major clashes, and one of the most significant thing was this new thing over here at Sonetsky Kozachok. So at Sonetsky Kozachok, Russian forces sent in DRGs or sabotage or saboteers or commando or special forces, whatever you want to call it, and they temporarily for a short moment of time, they actually captured the location, and they managed to kill some Ukrainian border guards and whatnot. And then after this after the attack, they actually withdrew. They actually left the position, and currently, based on the latest information coming from Deep State UA, is that the Ukrainian forces have retaken the small little village, and resecured it. This is a pretty interesting situation because the Russian sources don't have this information. The information actually came from the Ukrainian side, and later it was acknowledged by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Deep State UA actually have this information first. They actually reported about this, and it was then acknowledged by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So Deep State UA is known to be working with the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, so I wouldn't say, and I'm surprised. So we'll move on over. So over another border town, Veterinane was also attacked, according to the Russian Defense Ministry on the 26th of June. So there is some Russian attacks. Maybe they are incursions, or maybe they are just shelling reports. So we're not sure. As per reported by the Russian Defense Ministry, things are pretty vague, so we can't really tell. Over at the Lipsy sector. At the Lipsy sector and the Nekushny sector. Okay, so I think I have to zoom in like this. So a number of things happened around here. Ukrainian forces and Russian forces are still clashing heavily over at the Klipoke Lipsy region. Ukrainian forces allegedly was counter-attacking against the Russians. The Russians are also allegedly attacking Lipsy. The counter-attack came on the 27th of June. In the frontline changes, in the quick updates, I reported that the Russians were attacking only. Since then, the information suggests that the Ukrainians have counterattacked across the entire Klipoke Lipsy sector. The Russian Defense Ministry also reported shelling at Pitomnik as well as Vasily, and then there is report coming from Ryba talking about fighting in the Zelenye region, as the Russian forces are unable to capture the town due to the lack of cover. There is no place to hide. So no place to entrench means that they cannot capture the place. And which is a conundrum. I believe that there will be some kind of a military technology will be invented someday, and they will allow them to to drop down a instant bunker or something. One day I believe we will see it. I think we have already saw it in computer games and whatnot. I think it's just a natural evolution. And Russian Defense Ministry previously also, and also over the past 24 hours reported fighting over at Nekushny. So I think the fighting is just in the general area around here. They are fighting. Tonova also being reported to be under attack by the Russian forces, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. It could also be just shelling reports. So this is the situation around here. And I saw a comment saying that no, I need to show the locations more clearly. I would suggest you guys to go to the description, go to the map, look at the map yourself. You can actually use the map while watch the video, or you can watch the video and then later go and see the map and try to see the situation, because this is basically Google Maps. There is no other way to make it clearer than whatever it is already by the names of it like this. Unless you want to look at this view, which I know some people just don't like it. They find it's not as romantic. Although we can see the hills and mountains and lakes and sea and where's the urban area, but it still lacks of a lot of information that a satellite imagery can give. So I understand that, and going into Google Earth is a pain in the ass, because nowadays because of the way how I put the dates, because I put all these dates, the Google Earth just puts super long names, super long labels on all my pointers. So it makes it really hard to use Google Earth. So yeah, and Google Earth, I have this very itchy finger. I want to turn the cameras around and then show the dynamic angles, and people just complain they want to they're gonna get seasick, So over at the Voschan sector, so the Russian forces are under attack by the Ukrainians in the Starysia region. So Ukrainian forces from the Kharkiv region launched attack against Starysia and Buruvka, according to the information by Ryba. This reported by the Russian sources. Russian forces are geolocated in the south of Ohiseve. I think the Russians have a very strong position around Khertishev. So I think the Ukrainians have not tried this area here, as the fighting is still concentrated over the Voschansk region. The Russian forces are currently counter-attacking in this area and conducting heavy strikes through thermobaric missiles and air strikes, including SPV drone strikes in multiple locations. And they are really hammering the Ukrainians. There is no reports of Ukrainian attacking in Voschansk. I think that's quite stuck and quite indicative of the situation right now. The Ukrainians can't move forward. The firepower of the Russians are a bit too heavy right now. And the Russians are now storming the high-rise zone around here. And before I zoom in, Russian forces are also attacking Taike. So the Starysia Buruvka situation, not much to talk about. We will just continue to monitor to see if it becomes anything more significant. Russian forces still have not fully captured Starysia. And over at the Battle of Voschansk, Russian forces have started to attack into this high-rise zone, which is basically their own version of the Citadel, similar to the Bakhmut. And according to the information from two majors, Ukrainian forces continue to build up forces in the southern bank of the Voschansk River. They're trying to build up some force to counterattack. And the Russians are attacking the high-rise zone. And in the next day's information, according to Ryba, they reported that the Russians are still hitting the multi-story buildings using even thermobaric missiles. But it has not been successful at driving the Ukrainians out of this heavy and strongholds. There is also fighting being reported at the aggregate plant, and so even at this area here, the Russians seems to still have a position around at this aggregate plant, and there is some fighting reported in this area around here. So this situation here is pretty critical. I think the battle here is very, very fierce. So Ukrainian forces are gathering forces in the south of the river. and we do know that the Ukrainians have a stronger position over in the eastern part. They were previously conducting attacks in the east, but the Russians are now putting pressure in the center, and I think the Ukrainians have no choice but to react to these attacks. If these fall, they lose the crossing, and then maybe they only left with these pontoon crossings, maybe around here on the eastern part that they can cross. So logistically, it's just very complicated for the Ukrainians. So over at Taipei, the fighting is still being reported according to the Russian Defense Ministry and the Russian sources about the continued attack on Taipei. So that's the entire situation over at the Kharkiv front. Zarishny, there was a UAV control center allegedly getting destroyed, but just take it with a pinch of salt. Moving into the Kupiansk front. At the Kupiansk front, this sector here is also very busy. Oh my god, I cannot zoom in. So Russian forces are attacking at Sinkivka, Petropavlivka, over at Timkovka or Zakharokivka, attacking at Stepova, Novoselivka, Tabaivka, Pishane, as well as this area here. I believe this is Pishane, in the Pishane region. So I believe this is the screen that people complain that they cannot see the name of the different location. This is why I read it out. So if not, we can zoom in as well. So the Russian forces are shelling in multiple locations. They are shelling at Petropavlivka, just south of Vashana. There's a heavy airstrike just off Stepova, Novoselivka along the highway, and there's also further other strikes all over these locations. So it's not important exactly, to be honest, what kind of strike it was used. I feel like, this is just indicative. In terms of intel, we just want to know that the Ukrainians are there. Because they got hit there, so they confirmed they are there. So that allows us to confirm the front line. I think that is more important to me. I think because we can never ascertain how many troops are there on the ground. So it's not very meaningful to know how much successful strikes are there, because we can say that, there's 100 airstrikes killing 100 Ukrainian positions. That doesn't change that there might actually be 1,000 Ukrainian positions. So it makes zero difference. It's just a 10% hit. But it could also be there's 200 only 200 Ukrainian positions, and half of them is gone. We just don't know. So it would be misleading to overemphasize in this kind of strikes. So that's why my focus is still the front line, because if there is significant damage to the manpower, we will see the front line start to collapse. So that's basically what we saw at the Avdiivka front, at the beginning of the Kharkiv front, at the New York front currently, where the manpower disparity does shows. So when the manpower is balanced, the front line becomes more stagnant. So if we zoom in a bit, Russian forces previously was reported to have attacked and moved closer to this river system around here, or this gully, and this has been invalidated due to Ukrainian geolocated along the tree line. So this push towards Petropavlivka is now invalidated. However, the Russians are still attacking in the Sinkivka region. This was geolocated as a Ukrainian attack. So shelling of defeat of the Ukrainian vehicle in the position. So the Ukrainians are defending this location. The Russians were trying to attack. So this was what happened around this region here. And over at the Stepova Novoselivka region, Russian forces are fighting in the area of Timkovka. According to Ryba, then the Russians have this pretty long front line, and they are attacking across the front. And a lot of strikes is geolocated here. These are all airstrikes and a drone strike. So there must be some kind of a very heavy Ukrainian defensive positions around here, which is currently, providing resources and defending, as a hub for Stepova Novoselivka, which is probably why it attracted so many strikes around this region here. So we shall see how this develops. This looks like a critical point. And if you look at it, there is a highway, some kind of flyover. So this kind of position usually is very good for hiding troops under the bridge. And then there's forest. So yeah, pretty good defensive position for the Ukrainians. So it's no wonder the Ukrainians are getting struck over there. So over the Pishan region, Russian forces are pushing on from the east and towards Pishan. from the Kremelny region. So the entire front line is just pretty much burning with Russian attacks. So the Kupiansk front cannot be underestimated, and this is also the problem with reporting with the Ukraine war. I just cannot ignore, like, maybe I believe in maybe for other channels, I don't know. Kupiansk front is a totally boring front. It's not important. The exciting thing is the Kharkiv, the Battle of Voschansk, Battle of Krasnohorivka, Adiyevka front, the Torres offensive. Like, Kupiansk is just not sexy, but to me, it's just so important to talk about all this. I don't know. This is just me, and I report all this on a daily basis, and this is also how I can understand things that is happening. And maybe for you guys that watches, maybe those that always watch will probably understand it, the front line better. So this is why I just find it so painful. Like, I tried many times. I wanted to drop the full sitrep. I only put some snippets or just cover certain fronts, those exciting ones. But ultimately, I just find it hard to get past myself. So it is what it is. Over the Svetove front, in the Stemakivka, Andrievka sector, the Russians are conducting major attacks in this area here at Stemakivka, Andrievka, Juzerany. I should really go and find out how to pronounce this. Juzerany, and there's also a reported attack towards Kopanki, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And as mentioned in the Frontline Changes report, we have clarification of frontline around the Andrievka Zerany region, and Russian forces, based on Russian claims, have advanced greatly over in the Stemakivka region. So the Russians are putting a lot of pressure around this area as well. So this could also corroborate Ukrainian claims that the Russians have gathered a huge force around at the Svetove front to launch a major offensive. Maybe. So in the final objective, if they're gonna, this is a big arrow. If this is a big arrow move, where are the Russians going to head to? It looks like it's going to head towards the north of Borova and cut off the roads between Kupiansk and Borova. That could make perfect sense to me. And there's a lot lesser heavy entrenchment around here, heading towards this direction. Capturing maybe Senkove, crossing the Gruliakivka crossing. I think this crossing would be a good target for the Russians to attack too. And the Russians are indeed already attacking through Pishani. So if another attack coming from Semakivka does make some sense. I think this makes some sense. But of course, this is a very far away, based on it's around 12 to 18 kilometers. Based on Ukraine war standard, this is super huge distance. And some people complain I keep using the word massive. It's massive. This amount of 5 square kilometers captured is a huge thing, and there's so much frontline changes over the past 48 hours, and the depth of 1-2 kilometers is a lot for a attrition war. 1-2 kilometers advance is huge, so it's massive. That's why I use the word massive. I have a lack of vocabulary, so next time I use super, mega, whatever, anyway, so some airstrikes reported at Chereshchina, so not very important. Some shelling around this position, which is interesting. Maybe there's some heavy, defensive position around here that attracted the attack. Over at the Kremelny front, Russian forces are attacking so we cover the northern part first, okay? Russian forces are attacking at Makievka and Nevsky, and there is some attack over Terny. Ukrainian forces counterattack and Terny, and according to the Ukrainian sources, they have some success and managed to recapture a lot of ground, massive amount of ground. That's a lot of ground. We are talking about 2.39 square kilometers. A lot. That's a lot of ground. So so it's massive. So anyway, so that's the situation, and the Russians seems to be not very determined, or they are unable to hold a position east of Terny. This has been a very disastrous place to fight in. for the Russians. They have not been very good at defending this position. The Ukrainians have a lot of success over here. As the Russians seems to be reluctant to capture Terni. I'm not sure if it's a reason because urban areas are just harder to capture, or is it because they just don't want to capture it. They just want to keep the Ukrainians here. I'm not sure. So whatever it is, even if it's a battle of attrition, it is still people still die from it. So I just want you to know. So in this sector around here, the Ukrainians have a lot of success. So other than the Terni that I mentioned, the Ukrainians have some success. According to the Ukrainian information, Yampolivka, the Ukrainians also have made some grounds, and at the Toretsk region, Toske region, Ukrainian forces have also improved their position quite a bit over in this area here. So all in all, there's a major success for the Ukrainians around the Crimea front. So this nothing, it's not a small thing, it's a major thing. Massive amount of changes, right? Massive, right? So I mean, yeah, this is all very big changes. So the Russian forces are still attacking around this area. There's report of fighting at Terni, at Toske, at Dibrova, as well as Horivka. So around Crimea front, despite all this success coming on the Ukrainian side, I think the Russians are still pushing and attacking the Ukrainian forces. So we will continue to monitor. Over at the Sivas front, there is some developments. There is a new report at below Horivka. The Russian forces has restarted the attack in the east, in this area here. In other reports, we have Russians attacking at Volkomokonyamsky, at Sperne, towards Vimka, as well as at Rozdalivka. So this is the current situation. There's shelling reported at Platonivka and possibly at Horivka. So that's the situation. There is your location of FPV drone strike at Vimka. So they are just there. Other than the small little change around here, which is not very significant, the Russian forces have made some progress around in the Vasily region. I have to zoom out. So Russian forces expanded their grounds around Vimka. They then also have confirmed to have secured Vasily and advanced in the high ground. So we are going to get closer and closer to the Russian claims as the Russians are pushing through the high ground in the north of Rozdalivka. Russian forces definitely is now inside Rozdalivka, with the Battle of Rozdalivka still ongoing. So the situation is not good. Like for the Ukrainians, it's not good. Really, it's not good. I don't know how to sugarcoat this. So I'm going to short code this. No, it's not good. So we move on over to the Bakhmut front. In the northern flank of the Bakhmut front, we have Russian forces attacking in the area of Zaliniansky as well as Horivka. Nothing to talk about because we don't have much information, because these are just Russian Defense Ministry reports, so there's no details. Over in the central region, Ukrainian forces are counter-attacking in the north of Kalinina. Russians are still trying to attack Kernel and in the area of Chasivia. So largely it's in the area of Kernel, and so the battle here is pretty much a stalemate-ish in this area. Over in the south is still the usual boring ones at Klishevka and Ndrievka. So nothing much we can talk about over here because there's no real developments. Over the New York front, the Russian forces are attacking in multiple regions. They're attacking at Druzhba, Pidnishne, Zalizne, Piderne, shelling at Torets, attack towards New York, as well as Alexandropil. So the main push is clearly in this area here, which I call this the Torets offensive. So at Torets is this city around here. This is Torets. So the Russians are making a major offensive around this area, with fighting reported at Druzhba, Pidnishne, and so there's fighting at Pivdene. But interesting is that we have reports of fighting at Zalizne. It's reported by two majors and then corroborated by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Two majors is a Russian source. So the Russians may have attacked from the Sumy region into Zalizne, and I think this is why we have this report around here. So this is quite stressful, I think, for the Ukrainians to deal with. The Ukrainians will have to defend their position around here and prevent the war to go into the urban area, because that will suck in more manpower for the Ukrainians. And clearly, it's going to be bad for the Russians as well, because if you have the advance in firepower, there is no need to go into urban warfare, because the chance, the exchange rate is just poorer. So no, that's why I always don't believe that this is a real offensive. This is more like a pinning operation. It's like a diversion. So we shall see how it goes. Over at the northern flank of the Avdiivka front, Russian forces continue the attack towards Vodizenka in the area of Oleksandrivka. They're attacking towards Progress, towards Yekhanivka, and fighting at report at Sokil. So this area here continues to be the main focus, with the Russian forces continue to try to expand their control around this area, this region here. If we extend from this area here, we can see that it's heading in the general direction towards Pokrovsk. So, which is a major hub city. This is like the other Bakhmut. So the loss of Pokrovsk will be very devastating for Ukrainian logistics, provided that the entire front line, all the other front line remain more or less the same. So then Pokrovsk will be devastating to lose. But if it just becomes yet another frontline city like Bakhmut was, then it is not really significant. So it's only significant if the Russians have this bulge like this. If you have this kind of bulge, then all the other frontline will start to suffer greatly. So, but if the front line look like this, then it's no point. It's just another frontline city. So over the central area, Russian forces are attacking at Novoporossky towards Novosibirsk, Persia. They are attacking from Umansky, Yasnobrodivka as well. Geolocation of FPV drone attacking Ukrainians confirms that the Ukrainians are still having full control of Novosibirsk, Persia. So Ukrainians are counterattacking in the Yasnobrodivka region, according to the information from Ryber. So Ukrainians are counterattacking. And the main reason is because the Russians started to enter into Yasnobrodivka. Based on this geolocation, Russian forces are starting to advance into it, and the Ukrainians are counterattacking to make sure that the Russians cannot have a foothold in Yasnobrodivka. It's a very small village, so every little labor is a PR victory. So in the southern flank of the Avdiivka front, Russian forces are pushing out of Netelove and towards Khalivka. The situation here remains unchanged, and now I remember this is called Ismuth, whatever. The isthmus actually is isthmus. So I put a marker. This is a isthmus to make sure that I remember it. So it's not a causeway, it's a isthmus. So isthmus. Don't know how to pronounce. Lousy. I tell you a funny joke. My first language is English. I'm educated in English. English is my first language, not Mandarin. Mandarin is my second language. So, yeah, the irony. This is the plague of being Singaporean. Many Singaporeans just have poor English. We suck at it. So anyway, at Krasnohorivka, we have some frontline changes. So very, very minor one, with Russian forces taking some of these forests and the Ukrainians having one of these building. Very, very tiny changes. So it's not very significant. The battle definitely continues. You can see there is this forest, education center, so-called, being taken. Probably part of a school. You can see there's a running track. This is I think the school number 2, and the Ukrainians have this building around here. So the battle continues. Krasnohorivka is a very hard place to fight, and because it's a fortress city, so we shall continue to wait and see. Moving away in the south of Konstantinivka, Russian forces are conducting their offensive towards the Konstantinivka-Voleda highway. So this is Konstantinivka. So Russian forces are attacking in this area in the south and towards Vodian. The geolocation clearly shows that the Russians are are on the offensive in this area here. So they are pushing this area here. They are ignoring Paraskoviyevka. It looks like they are happy with this defensive position around there, and they are just pushing towards the highway. And because breaking this highway would just create so much logistical nightmare for the Ukrainians. So I think this is the current push they are moving towards. And so that's all from this area. At Prachestivka, there is some reported attack according to the Russian Defense Ministry, and I believe that we have the receipts. So there's a guided missile strike and an airstrike reported at Prachestivka, mostly in the southeast. So this confirms the Russian Defense Ministry's report. So it's not an attack. It's not like an assault. It's more like just a airstrike kind of thing. So over at the Velika Novosilka sector, other than shelling reported at Velika Novosilka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, the battles around this twin town is pretty bad. Ukrainians are on the counter-attack towards Staromayorsky and Uruzhaine. Russian forces are also reportedly on the offensive in this area here. Thermobaric missiles is being used in the south of Uruzhaine, which clearly shows how fierce the fighting is. Russians are allegedly attacking towards Makarivka or shelling it. So this situation around this area continues to be, a nightmare place. Pretty much a nightmare place. So these few towns are the most heavily bombarded towns and settlements in Ukraine. So it's amazing how they're still fighting over there. Over at the Zaporizhia front, we have fighting reported at Zakhirny. This is something new. We haven't seen a report about fighting in the Zakhirny region since forever. Russians are attacking Malatomashka region, Nesteryanka, Patikaki, as well as Kayamsky. Patikaki, in particular, is a thermobaric strike. It's a TOS-1A strike. And then there is a geolocation of Lancet hitting a Ukrainian artillery over in the south, in the northeast of Shebaki. So this is the current strategic situation in this area here. Nothing very special other than, I would say this new thing is interesting. But the Russians are not going to capture Huyaipole anyway. So far as I can tell, the Russians' interest over in this region might just be to retake. To close up this entire salient around here, the Ukrainian bulge at Orkhiv sector, and the most capture Pietikaki and this what is this other location called Zerbianki. But it is a good death kill box, for the Ukrainians. So the Russians wouldn't mind just let the Ukrainians go there and get shelled. That's the main problem with the Ukrainian strategy about capturing or holding as much ground as possible, because the Russians know that they will come back. They can shell the place, kill off everyone. The Ukrainians will then send another force to retake the village. And I think this is a bad strategy. It's totally against NATO strategy. About maneuver, about having more mobility. So by doing this, you're just setting yourself up for failure because you just keep going into the queue box. So I don't support such a operation, but it is what it is. So over at Kherson front, there is a multiple shelling reports. Most particular importance is actually the fighting at Dachi. According to two majors, the pro-Russian source reported that there is still skirmishes between small groups of Ukrainian forces near the Antonovsky Bridge and the Russian forces. The Russian forces are struggling along all these different islands, as the Ukrainians are deploying not enormous amount of FPV drones around this area, making operations really difficult, resupply extremely difficult as well. So the Ukrainians have some kind of advantage in this area here. Russian forces are shelling in multiple locations at Odrado, Kayamka, Tyahinka, Tokarivka, and Dniprovsky. There is also other geolocation at Ohilsky, Lozove, and also another one at Tyahinka, showing that the Russians are shelling in multiple locations. And this push at Dachi region is particularly interesting, but I don't think the Russians can capture Dachi. I mean, the Russians have already tried previously when the Ukrainians just captured Dachi, and it was a disaster. And given that the Ukrainians now have a lot more drones operating in this area here, so replacing the need for artillery systems, because the Ukrainians have pushed in a lot of artillery system into the Kherson front, and they are largely destroyed. Every time the Lancers are just hunting for them, it's a disaster. So having FPV drones is a good compromise, and it still is effective at making life very difficult for the Russians. So I think it's working out pretty well for the Ukrainians right here. So anyway, that's all for the Kherson front, and that's about it. So this is the situation report for the day of 854 to 855 for the 26th to the 27th of June. Do press the like button, subscribe, and the situation report will continue. DPA has reported since day one, and it's really hard to let go, and it's also impossible to let go because it's just not possible. If you have watched till this point, you would know that they just waste so much information, so much tactical and strategic considerations in every front. Every front is different. Every front is interesting, and even if it's nothing much is happening, it is still important. It's still interesting actually. So, which is why it's just so hard for me to rebrand, reform, or reformat the Ukraine war reporting. The people tell me to do weekly summaries and whatnot, but the reality is you can just watch any of the SITREP. It still covers what you need to know of the actual situation, because I do explain the situation on the ground, and it wouldn't make much difference. A situation report, a daily one and a weekly one, wouldn't make much difference. So yeah, so which is why I haven't been doing weekly ones, because it wouldn't make much difference. And over time you realize every week's summary would sound exactly the same, because once you compile everything together, it's going to look the same. It's going to look the same, because the fighting, you just be talking about all the different places that fights. But yeah, it's just a conundrum. Like, I don't read the weekly reports from Ryba or Russian Defense Ministry as well, because it's a waste of time. So anyway, it is what it is. So thank you for watching. I will just continue to try my best, and I'll see you guys in the next update.